Today, I'm going to be talking about Cecil Stedman from and how many bad decisions he makes and how much of a bad person he really is. Right, before we continue, I feel like I've got to say this. There's going to be spoilers for Invincible in this video, so just stop watching if you haven't seen the latest seasons or whatever. Just stop watching. Go and watch it and then come back. Okay, right. So now that you're back, who is Cecil Stedman? Well, Cecil Stedman is the leader of the GDA. And the GDA are basically the people or the government who take care of the crises on Earth. So, you know, when there's an alien attack or a monster attack in a city, GDA are the people who get involved and deal with that. And Cecil is the leader of the GDA. He's the guy, he's the man, he's Amanda Waller, he's Nick Fury. Actually, he's Nick Fury before Secret Invasion because that ruined his character. But you see my point. He's the man in charge and he makes all the important decisions, good or bad. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a hard job to have. It can't be easy having to deal with crisis 24/7. You know, he doesn't even get to sleep. He has to sleep in like a Bapta tank from like Star Wars, for example. And that means he doesn't need to sleep anymore. The man is devoted. You know, no one can question that. You know, he's clocking in that overtime, man. However, just because he's devoted to the GDA and the protection of Earth doesn't excuse all the bad things he does, especially when it comes to... So, let's talk about it. I think it's pretty obvious to me and anybody who's watched the show that he's a Class A manipulator. Whether that be emotionally or financially, it's more often than not emotionally, like I said, especially when it comes to Mark Grayson, and it just isn't right. He constantly attempts to get Mark back under his thumb and back into the fold where he can control him. Acting as a friend, never fully trusting him though, and constantly keeping him in the dark and withholding truths from him, only allowing him to be a hero on Cecil's terms. Oh man, he loves a little bit of emotional manipulation. Well, let's go over a couple of it, just a few. Okay, first point, it happened in the hallway scene. He threatens to have Oliver taken away, a baby. Let that sink in, a baby. Cecil uses the threat of taking a baby away from Mark and his family to get Mark back under his thumb, forcing Mark to compromise.
I'll send a team to pick up Nolan's kid.
You can't.
What are you gonna do, leave him with your mom? He's an alien. We're more qualified to take care of him.
And listen to what Cecil had to say. Who the f does he think he is? I mean, you literally are using a baby to your agenda, to your advantage. That's man. All right, he's a space baby or an alien baby, whatever you want to say. He looks like Barney, for God's sake. But still, it's still a baby nevertheless, and you're using him to pursue your agenda. What's wrong with you? Do you get what I'm saying? Or would you do the same thing if you were Cecil? That it. He tells Mark that he isn't like his dad, right? And I think Cecil really wants to believe this. And maybe he does believe this, and well, he does believe it. However, whenever they have the slightest disagreement, he's always like, oh, you remind me of your dad, you're being like your dad again. It just reminds me of like single mums who blame the father, say, oh, you're exactly like your dad, you're exactly like your dad. It's like, oh yeah, that's helping.
I need your permission to be a superhero.
You know who else said that to me?
I'm not my dad. I'm not my dad.
Take some time off, kid. Some real time off.
That's really making Mark feel better, isn't it? Talk about rubbing salt in the wound, man. What kind of reaction does he think he's going to get out of Mark by constantly poking the bear about him being like his dad? You're just going to push him further away from you. I just really don't understand the thinking here. Cecil likes to compare Mark killing Angstrom to being the same as Sinclair and Darkwing.
You killed Angstrom Levy. Should I lock you up too? Throw away the key?
As if Sinclair wasn't going out of his way to kidnap people and then experiment on them against their will. And Darkwing just went completely nuts and started dishing out his own form of justice. Cecil really thinks that those two things, or those three things, are all the same. I don't know about that. Cecil knows that there is a massive difference here. However, he's just trying to gaslight Mark into thinking the way that he thinks. I mean, what would you have done if you were Cecil in this situation? You know? Would you have tried to just talk to Mark like a person rather than try to manipulate and make him feel bad about things? You know? Angstrom is completely different from the likes of Darkwing murdering people in Midnight City or Sinclair kidnapping people, you know. And he's not so much of a he ain't so much of a donut not to know the difference. He would argue that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and I'm not blind to that as an idea. In fact, I probably even agree with it in some way. But his use of emotional manipulation, or just manipulation as a whole, is so bad. You know, there's just no reason for it half the time. It's just his need of control, really. But was this emotional control necessary? No, it wasn't. Mark wanted to be the hero, but he could not let his only defense against another Viltrumite or Omni-Man returning leave. I say only defense. Well, a defence that would be more than just a nosebleed. All Cecil wanted to do was control his best asset. He never looked at Mark as actually a person. And that is what's wrong with Cecil. He needed to talk to Mark like a human being rather than an asset to be controlled, a dog to be kept on a leash. You know, I suppose Cecil told us what he was all about. You can be the good guy, or you can be the guy that saves the world. Okay, moving on to Cecil's probably second biggest up of all time, his contingency plan for Mark. Yes, I'm talking about the infamous sonic implant, as I'm calling it. Let's go over this so we can try and make sense of this whole situation, because it is bloody ridiculous. Right, so Cecil implants a contingency device inside of Mark's head whilst he was healing in hospital some point earlier on in the series. He really pulled out the button like he was an anime character or something. So Mark and Cecil are having an argument. Cecil then sets a group of Reanimen on Mark, uses a specifically designed sound weapon against Mark. Mark tries to then escape. Let me ask you, what does Cecil then do? Your options are A, leave him be, you've proved your point. B, talk to Mark as he flies away to try and calm him down and explain yourself. Or C, continue to chase him until you find a suitable spot where you can activate the weapon again to make him land and try and capture him. If you chose C, you're the winner. What a goober. Honest to God, this guy has no common sense. For God's sake, man, who thought that that was going to be a good idea? Honestly, this sleep treatment that he's doing just ain't working because his head ain't on straight, obviously. He needs to go have a lie down and think about things, because this decision was just stupid. Cecil didn't want to use the weapon on Mark as he's flying away, not because he was worried about hurting Mark again or putting him in intense pain again. He wasn't sure where he was going to land, as in hurting other people. The man just does not care about Mark at this point, or at all. And it's pretty obvious by further actions in this series, but my God, man, there's just complete dismissal for how Invincible is feeling in this moment. It's just silly and disgusting. The guy simply doesn't give a damn about Invincible. So, let's carry on. Cecil keeps following him and they end up at the Guardians of the Globe headquarters. Cecil then sets more Reanimen on him and they beat the living shit out of him. Mark before this has also exclaimed how he thinks that Cecil is trying to kill him. So Mark is literally fearing for his life right now, and Cecil still sets more Reanimen on him.
Everyone step back. This has nothing to do with you.
He's trying to kill me!
What?
Who then beat the shit out of him, and the Guardians are forced to act and save Mark. Is this guy on drugs or something? On what planet is this a good idea to do this, especially in front of the Guardians of the Globe, who are obviously going to side with Mark? who you can see is in intense pain and fearing for his life, you know. He's trying to kill me was his exact words. Come on, man. What the hell? Oh, I know. I've got my ultimate invincible killing weapon. I'll use it at the slightest argument that we have. The minor inconvenience that we have, I'm going to use it, you know. He's gone straight for the nuclear option rather than trying everything that he can before that to calm Mark down. He's gone, yeah, I've got a red button, let me push it. What a div. I mean, what a fantastic idea. What could go wrong at this point, man? Like I said, he didn't even try hard to de-escalate things. There was about a million other ways of him to deal with this situation, but he just didn't want to. He wanted to get him under the thumb, back on the leash, you know. The guy's a fucking idiot. What can I say? You know, like if we like backtrack a little bit, we're talking about Mark had an implant in his head against his will. That the GDA or Cecil, you know, we lose them terms intermittently here, but we're literally talking about Cecil and the GDA as one. So Cecil implanted this into Mark's head as a safeguard or a contingency plan against Mark, you know, ever going rogue or something like that, let's say. But he decides to use it when they're having an argument. They're having an argument about something that can be explained away over time. Oh, I know, I'll go nuclear and just incapacitate my greatest asset. I just don't get it, you know. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me on this one? It just seems like it's a complete misstep on Cecil's part, you know. I can't be the only one that feels this way. Let me know what you think, but I think people might more agree with me than they don't agree with me. Just let me know down in the comments what you think about this one, man, because I think he's an absolute div. And then, after all of that happening, he still tries to give it to Mark. Wow. He has got some bollocks. But now he's probably choking on them bollocks after that.
Screws up and then tries to make good. Don't you ever threaten me again. As for the rest of you,
I will never work for you again. We're done. And if you ever come near my family again...
Alright, next up is the big C himself, Conquest.
Conquest? I don't even get a real name.
This has got to be Cecil's #1 fuck up to date. I actually can't believe it. I remember reading it in the comic books and like being gobsmacked, and then seeing it in the show, and they didn't change it much, and I was like, oh my, he's still a fucking idiot. In what universe was it a good idea to keep this animal locked up? He nearly fucking slimed your #1 hero. The only reason that Mark got the win on this one is because he had Eve there to help him. Otherwise it would have been game over for Earth. None of these other heroes are coming close. He really thought this prison was going to hold Conquest. Arguably the third strongest character in Invincible. Like third, fourth, he's up there. You know, he's up there with the likes of Battle Beast and Frag. You know, he's definitely stronger than Mark at this point. He's definitely stronger than Omni-Man at this point. And you really thought this metal box with nukes and was going to hold him. How much of an ego do you have, man? Like, honestly, his critical thinking skills at this point are torn to shreds. What was you going to do? I think it was something like, oh, I'm going to get information about the other Viltrumites from him. What was you going to do, bro? Honestly, you tell me. What was you going to do? How was you going to get the information out of Conquest? Was you going to bore him to death or something? Because you ain't killing him. You ain't going to be able to torture him. You ain't going to get the information out that way. So what was he going to do? Come on. It's just ridiculous. But here's another thing. Obviously, there's no way they built that prison in that amount of time for Conquest. So Cecil already had that prison ready for somebody. I genuinely believe that if Mark had not fought back against the implant and had the Guardians' help, that's probably where he would have ended up, in that prison, until Cecil would have let him go or figured out a way to control Mark further. Let me know what you think about that though, because that's a bit of a conspiracy theory. or just a theory. Don't worry, this isn't game theory or film theory. Comic book theory. I just can't, but it's like, I just can't believe it, honestly. That's got to be up there with some of the most decisions that just don't make any sense. Top 10 decisions that don't make any sense, and Cecil was somewhere there when it comes to Conquest, at least. Conquest escaping is catastrophic for Mark later on. I mean, that whole fight that they have where he's got the spaghetti guts, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and the bolognese spaghetti meme thing. Oh, mate, it makes me laugh every time I see it. It really goes to show Cecil's hubris or ego, whatever you want to call it, at play here. He really thinks that he can control that man, that animal, and keep him incapacitated, I guess. And Cecil's bad decision really comes back to bite Mark on the arse later on, man. And this has got to be the biggest of bad decisions of Cecil's life. That and trusting Robot when he comes back from the Flaxlands, but we haven't seen that yet in the show, so spoilers. So here's some other things to think about when it comes to Cecil and his like decision making, you know, good or bad or whatever. But here's some bad decisions that I think he made. Not trying to reform the Mauler twins. What's that about? I mean, you've got these two guys, all right, they're clones, you know, the original, that makes me laugh, but he hasn't tried to reform them. Imagine what they could do if the GDA worked with them, or they worked with the GDA, what they can accomplish. I mean, Cecil's missing the trick here, and I just don't understand why he doesn't do this, because it's shown that all they want is the resources to be able to carry out their experiments, and they seem perfect for Cecil to bring into the fold. I just don't understand why he doesn't do it. It doesn't make any sense. It's not as if Cecil cares of the morality of it all. He couldn't give two damn about morals. Like I said, he's not a particularly good person. He's a bad person, really. So why is he not doing this? It doesn't make sense. I think it's a missed opportunity on the show's part to do this. Like, imagine, Cecil can't be everywhere at once, so he's got this teleporting machine that costs billions of taxpayer money. Imagine he cloned himself. And don't tell me that is something that Cecil wouldn't do. He would most definitely clone himself if he could. Think about that for a second. He could be a different GDA outpost all around the world. He could only do it with the Maulers, though, because they're the best at doing that kind of thing. Think about that for a second. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment. Uberduck out.